birthday there, Josh.
The birthday boy.
Where's
Your
the link
birthday?
at?
What do you
It
mean?
is.
Look up YouTube and then
Happy
pull up
birthday.
our.
Thank you, Cade. See,
Yes,
Cade's a
sir.
nice thing, man.
Kate said
Are we
a nice
live?
thing because you didn't.
Huh?
Yeah, we are. Because you didn't basically interrogate the kid here before the bod. Anyhow, let's
Okay,
stop
wait, real
everything.
quick.
Oh,
Send me the link, Austin, so I can send it out.
for sure. All right, give us one moment.
I mean, you want to have a viewer, right?
I do, but I'd also like to start the podcast in a smoother manner than that.
Well, don't start it then.
I already did.
End it.
End it and then run it back. I think.
Yeah, run it back.
Nah, we'll fine. I'm gonna send it in our group chat, just in case. Kate's got some local viewers.
Or some
If you
you
tell
know,
her to just look up the
yeah.
channel name, it should pop right up too.
Let me see if the audio is rocking right now.
Why is there a blood stain on this desk? There's a blood.
Yeah,
This
audio
isn't my
seems
room.
fine.
I come in here because it's like better lighting. But there was a girl that lived in here before. There's a blood stain on the desk, and there's 5 trash bags in the closet. I don't know.
Have you guys ever thought about just throwing away those trash bags?
No, because it's not our responsibility, and they're like leaking, and we don't come in here that often. So
You film in here every Tuesday. I feel like at this point you might as well just be like, hey, I'm, as disgusting as this may be, let's just throw it away. But anyhow, what's up, everybody?
It's reasonable.
Welcome back to the
Have we started?
podcast. Again, we started about a minute and a half ago. But welcome everybody who's come to stop in. Back to the fantasy pod, the little
Okay.
fantasy football and chill pod. This week, we're doing a couple segments. The first one being a little recap of the championship round and a look ahead to the Super Bowl. The second one, we're going to be discussing kind of the coaching changes, front office changes of the last couple of weeks and for the upcoming season. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about what teams should be looking forward to and what they should be kind of planning for the next season for success. So does anybody want to start off specifically kind of recapping the first game of the Niners and Eagles?
No.
Oh yeah, I'll go for it.
Josh, take it away.
Oh, I'm sorry if I interrupted you, Cade.
Kate said no, so.
Oh, okay. Definitely not as good of a game as I was expecting. And that's because Brock Purdy got hurt 5 minutes into the game or something like that. So that's a huge bummer if you're a San Francisco fan. Definitely not ideal to lose your starting third string quarterback in the first 5 minutes of the NFC Championship. But what's his first name? Johnson.
Josh Johnson.
Josh.
Yeah, Josh Johnson. He stepped in and did about as good as you'd expect stepping into an NFC Championship game. I didn't know much about Josh Johnson, but he's been in the league since 2008. Played on every team in the NFL. It seems like.
Doesn't mean he's good.
But yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
He's just good enough to be a backup. But yeah, Eagles looked phenomenal even while Brock Purdy was in there. They didn't really, it was only 5 minutes, but Jalen hurt. As soon as they got the ball, they were moving down the field well, which is something I was not expecting versus San Francisco defense. But that Devonta Smith catch, that wasn't really a catch, but San Francisco should have challenged it. Definitely got the momentum going in their favor, and it kind of just went from there. But definitely disappointing if you're a San Francisco fan. You guys definitely didn't put up the fight y'all were probably expecting. But defense, San Francisco defense was on the field the entire game, so can't really expect them to do too much. But Eagles look really good.
Quality
Take
recap.
it away, Austin.
To add on to what Josh said, Brock Purdy completely tore his UCL on that throw that got deflected, or basically his arm got swatted by what was it, Hassan
Reddick.
Yeah. And so
who was everywhere.
Yeah. No, he had a phenomenal game, but as you kind of talked about, Devontae Smith's mystical catch that wasn't a catch really turned the tides, and it was amazing to me because if you guys noticed, the man went like this like 3 times, and I was like, if I'm standing with my binoculars up with the front office, wouldn't that be like, if I saw my receiver signal anything, I'd be like, hey, we're calling a timeout, it's the first quarter, let's review it. There's got to be some sort of like initiative to take right there, and that was, as you said, a turning point. And then Josh Johnson looking like he's never played for the 49ers when he stepped out there was either an attest to how good Philly's defense is or just how poor he really could have been in that game. But him getting a concussion, going out, and then Brock with literally no throwing ability being put out there to hand the ball off was just, it was just a terrible way to extend that game. And everybody, even Niners fans, probably just wanted that game to end. So that was
He did throw, what was it, 2 or 3 passes, and that's really surprising now that we know that he has a torn UCL.
Yeah, when he threw that screen pass to Christian McCaffrey, it looked like if I threw it, and right when I saw that, I was like, dude, there's got to be something completely wrong with that dude's arm right now.
Yeah, it looked bad.
But yeah, so that was an unfortunate game to watch. But if Kate and Jason would like to talk about that Cincy Kansas City game, I mean, there's a lot to talk about in that game too.
Go ahead, Jason.
Which game? Kansas City? Yeah, I thought it was a pretty even match. I took Cincinnati, so I was a little disappointed. I wanted Burrow to win. I thought they're the more complete team, but Kansas City showed that it's definitely not Burrowhead, and that's Mahomes' house, kind of like Travis Kelce said. And I thought Kansas City looked pretty sharp. They converted on third down when they needed to. That what was it? What quarter was it when Mahomes hit MVS? It was like 3rd and long in the end zone. Was that the end of the 3rd quarter, early 4th?
I think it was top of the 4th.
Top of the quarter, and I mean that was an amazing throw. Kelce, obviously, he had back spasms, I believe, and he played through it. He didn't have his best game, but I mean you can't blame him. But I thought overall Kansas City looked good. Still think the Bengals might have played a little bit better, but being in that environment, and it seems like they had a lot of factors against them, like the refs making some questionable calls, but I'll give Kansas City credit. They played pretty well.
Just on the Bengals side, I think what was unfortunate for them, they kind of ran into offensive line trouble again. They were pretty banged up on the offensive line, and they had a lot of 2nd string, 3rd string guys playing for them. And Kansas City early in the game got a lot of pressure on Burrow, and I think kind of threw off the rhythm for the Bengals. But I thought, honestly, when I was watching the game, I thought Bengals might have pulled that one out for a second, especially when they had that 4th down conversion to Jamar, like way down the field. I was thinking the Bengals might run away with it or something, or at least take the lead and hold on to it. But like Jason said, obviously there's some questionable things going on with the refs. But I mean, my take on it right now is that yes, they had that like replay of the 3rd down. Didn't turn out to be anything anyway. So even though that happened, it was like, who cares? And then if you want to talk about the last play of the game, I think we were texting in our group chat saying, I mean, he was out of bounds. He shouldn't have shoved him, whatever else. Definitely got to be way smarter than that. I mean, just completely allowed him to have a way easier field goal or attempt at it to win the game. So Bengals kind of did a couple of things that kind of hurt themselves in a way. And but the Chiefs look good, like Jason said, and it'll be a really good Super Bowl coming up.
Kind of want to tag on 2 things after hearing that recap. So first and foremost, referencing back to the Niners-Eagles game, we talked in the chat about when Trent Williams absolutely tossed a dude. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of a matter of time because the emotions looked like they were spilling out over the game. And you can tell like a banged up Niners team that lost basically their core was fighting with everything they had, but when you lose the main portion of your unit, it's impossible for you to win. And so it was a matter of time until they lashed out. And when we saw that, I was driving to, I don't remember where I was going, but I looked at my phone and I watched Trent Williams toss a dude, and I was like, That was not what I was anticipating when you guys said. I thought Brock just unleashed one downfield. Little did I know, dude got fucking basically thrown over a body and tossed onto the ground like a rag doll. So that was pretty fucking sick.
That game was heated for sure.
And then
You guys see pregame warmups, AJ Brown and Jimmy Ward?
yeah,
Yeah.
dude,
That turned out to be nothing.
I mean, AJ didn't even have that great of a day, but it's because nobody really had that great of a day statistically, other than
I mean, they didn't need a pass, they were just running every play.
Yeah, but they didn't even run efficiently either. They just happened to have the ball for 54 minutes of what felt like the 60-minute game, and a matter of time, you're inevitably going to move downfield no matter what you do.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah,
honestly,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I was kind of hoping McCaffrey would step in there and do something crazy. They actually put him at quarterback.
Yeah,
but I think that's more, fantasy land. I think in reality, he would have got clapped. We saw the one pass he threw. I don't know who he was throwing to.
Yeah, undersized. He's really undersized too.
I feel like that's something to talk about, how people make it seem like Christian McCaffrey would just smoothly slot himself in at quarterback, understand all the plays, and then not alone, but he'd have to go through reading the defense. Like it's undervalued how much a quarterback truly has to know out there. And it would have been quite an experience to watch CMC throw about 3 picks because some dude learned his passes.
Pre-snap alignment. Lineman adjustments.
Yeah.
Identifying the Mike linebacker.
Dude's getting sacked at least twice, or he's throwing multiple picks.
And then you have to
be crazy. You'd be a crazy like Lamar Jackson, though. You just oh, no reads there, and to just run.
It'd be backyard football.
But they'd be accounting for that. The Eagles would definitely be playing.
They would contain.
Run.
I'd hope.
They'd definitely send pressure, and everybody else would be man coverage.
But yeah, as far as the Bengals and Chiefs game, no one likes to see that game was decided by refs. No one likes to see a call be the result of someone winning or losing. And that it just sucks to see that. But I don't personally like. There was some missed calls, maybe like the Devonta one. The refs probably couldn't see that. I understand that, and the no roughing the passer call that everyone's been showing on Instagram on Joe Burrow. And just, maybe like the intentional grounding call probably could have, not been called. But other than as far as all the stuff that they did call, I don't think any of the calls they made were unfair.
Agreed.
There was some stuff missed for sure. Was that intentional? Who knows? There's in every game, there's stuff that's missed. But I don't know, man. Like I said, it's just hard to see a game like that, especially that big of a game, be decided by refs.
So yeah, Josh, kind of piggyback off what you said. I think my problem was like in the early game between Philly and San Fran. The issue that I had was, one drive, I want to say they called like 6 penalties on the San Fran defense. And I don't have a problem because you look back and all of those were penalties and they were justified. But the problem I have is how many penalties are they missing on the other team? Like at least I think if you're going to call it one way, you got to call it both ways. So that's the problem I had. And I'm not going back and watching film of the all 22, so I can't tell you. But I'm sure there are probably some missed calls, and it always seems to go in the home team's favor. Just what I've seen, especially in the playoffs.
That's true.
That's fair.
All the stuff that wasn't called did, end up being in favor of the home team.
And then the Kansas City game, I guess like the head referee, you guys saw that his son had a wager on the game. Apparently like a huge, huge wager. Yeah,
you referenced that in the group chat. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
That's hearsay.
Yeah. So I can't recall the name of the referee, but he's the guy that looks like Urkel. I think everyone knows who I'm talking about. And
is he a white hat?
Yeah, white hat, Urkel looking dude. If you guys saw a picture of him, you'd know. But he's been in the NFL since I can remember, reffing pretty big games, and it's not even so much like the fact that, like saying, oh, he Nate or his son's like betting or not betting on the game. This is an issue. Like I know he claims he didn't know about it, but I guess like the problem that I have is not so much about whether he knew about it or didn't know about it, but it's more the fact that you have to follow the guidelines. It's kind of like the whole thing with the Calvin Ridley betting on the Falcons to win the game. It doesn't matter that he only bet a couple $100 and you guys hear that drag racing out there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I said,
it's different because it's not him doing it, you know.
No, agreed. But I guess it's more the fact that betting is like one of the last things you want around the league. I mean, we saw what happened with what was his name, Pete Rose. I mean, the guy was playing on the Cincinnati Reds, and he was betting on pretty much every game. You don't want that stuff in a professional sport because it's just there's a lot of people that will question the authenticity of the game, and it's a problem for sure.
Well, I think people do already just because of, you know, the legalization of, or, you know, how sports betting has always been, you know, legal in like Vegas and stuff, but now it's much bigger, much more accessible because it's on everybody's phone and everything. I think it already has played a major role in the league. You know, maybe not a very visible one, but I mean, how could it not is my thing.
I feel like sports betting is definitely going to be another subject that we'll have to tag on, but I think we should kind of hop into talking more so about the Super Bowl, or predictions on that, and kind of giving like an eagle eye view on how this game probably will play out or what needs to play out for teams to end up doing well. So I'll kind of start it off with the matchup between the Eagles and the Chiefs. If we look at, I mean, skill players, I personally, other than quarterback, I really favor the Eagles, other than maybe tight end. It just feels like the Eagles have such depth at all positions. Their skill players and their receivers, their running backs. I mean, Dallas is a stud. Their offensive line's good. Their corners are great. Their line obviously did a great work. They did a great job against San Fran, and they were supposed to have one of the better lines too. So I mean, they feel like an extremely complete team. And on the flip side, what do you say? And yeah,
what about head coach?
I mean, Nick Sirianni obviously might not be. I'm not going to discredit that, but Nick Sirianni's obviously no Kyle Shanahan, but obviously unforeseen situations occur, and sometimes that ends up being the greater thing. But I think Nick Sirianni did a good job in that game, maintaining.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Yeah, but I mean, as you said, like Andy Reid's a better coach, hands down. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback. Travis Kelce's a better tight end. I mean, Chris Jones is probably neck and neck. He's definitely better than Brandon Cox, and but that interior line is it?
Fletcher.
Oh yeah, Fletcher Cox, and then I mean, and Josh Sweat. But I mean, they just like, I feel like they have him beat at just about every position, and I mean, it's gonna take one heroic performance from Patrick Mahomes to pull it off. But I mean, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But it might be just a repeat of that Bucs Chiefs game one more time.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm pretty split down the middle in this game, just because I think these teams are built pretty much like complete opposites from each other. You have the Eagles, who are built all the way around, and they have a great roster. They don't really have one hole. And then you have a team like Kansas City, who they're flashy. They have the best quarterback, best player in football, the best tight end, and you have probably the best coach. I'm going to lean Kansas City because of experience, and I value having an elite quarterback over and an elite coach over a complete team. And I think the other issue is kind of like what you noted about how Philadelphia has like a very complete team, and they're better than Kansas City pretty much everywhere but quarterback and tight end, right? But I think the thing that maybe we're kind of disregarding a little bit is that the gap is not that big between some of the players on Kansas City and Philly. Like you look at the corners on San Francisco, they still have pretty good corners. They still have guys in the secondary that are good. They brought over the guy from I'm blanking on the name. The safety.
Oh no.
No, the safety from Houston. Safety from Houston. The guy that can kick field goals.
Wait, you're talking about San Fran?
No, I'm talking about Kansas City.
Oh, I was sitting here. I was like, Charvarius Ward. Are we talking about? But no, we're
no. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Give me 1 second. You'll know the name once I say it. Justin Reed. So Justin Reed he's a good safety. Willie Gay's a pretty good linebacker. They still have guys on that D line. Chris Jones, obviously.
Really good linebacker.
Yeah. Chris Jones is arguably the best D tackle in the NFL. I mean, the only guy I'd say is above him is probably Aaron Donald. You have Frank Clark. You have Trent McDuffie. He's been a very, very good rookie corner. Jarius Sneed is one of the best young corners in the NFL. So, yes, the Eagles, I guess, are better at every position. You could argue that, except a couple. But the gap, the margin is not that big, in my opinion, at those other positions. So I'm going to take the elite quarterback and elite coach. So give me Kansas City.
Yeah, I agree with what Jason said. And a lot of it, like what you touched on a little bit, was the experience. I mean, a lot of players on that Kansas City team have been in a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. So I think that really says a lot. Experience and just, overall, like, your tone and behavior going into the game, I think Jalen Hurts, he really has like a good head on his shoulders, really mature guy. I think he's going to be ready. But what about Devonta Smith? What about maybe AJ Brown? What about, some of these younger guys and some more inexperienced guys? They, I don't know. I'm not going to say they're going to like throw away the game or anything like that, but experience definitely, has a big factor. And like Jason said, this game's going to come down to coaching and defense, really, because we know how great both of these offenses are. And they have good defenses too, but can each one of those defenses, can they stop, both of those offenses? And I don't know, I think it's going to be a good game, but I also got Kansas City taking a dub.
I agree with your guys' takes in regard of experience. I think that's a big factor for sure. With that, though, I still do think it's the Eagles' year. I think the Eagles are on a charge for it, and they look really good. And unfortunately for them, as they run into the 49ers, they have their quarterback get hurt. But besides that, I mean, they pretty much ran through everybody pretty handily going through the NFC. So I think the Eagles are going to win this one. I think it's going to be a very close game, though. I think it's going to be a very good Super Bowl. I'm actually pretty excited for this one. I think it could come down to the last possession, who has the ball last. Usually Super Bowls are like under the over in a way, but I get this feeling it might be a little bit of a shootout. We might get to see some offensive back and forth, which would be a lot of fun. But I think I got the Eagles winning the Super Bowl.
Hey, real quick, I have a question for you guys. Just because I'm curious. Who have the Eagles played this year? Like, who have they actually beat? Because I looked at their schedule the other day. They have not faced one powerhouse team. I think that might come as
They beat that 49ers defense.
But you could argue that Brock Purdy wasn't on the field, or he wasn't, playing, and they turned over the ball. They had a punt. So if the defense is on the field the entire game, yeah, they're going to give up plays. And then once you're down 14, 21, it's like a snowball effect. You're just kind of going to, throw the towel in, I guess. And I think that's kind of, I mean, I'm not excusing San Fran's performance, but who has Philadelphia really beaten this year?
To address that question, it's kind of it kind of gives me a college football style question, because like I feel like there's a lot of times we'll sit here and be like, Bama, why are they truly the number one seed? And it's not like I'm bringing it straight 1-to-1 to Bama, but this conversation gets brought up quite hefty with most of your powerhouse teams because they don't play really tough matchups until the end of the year, right? It's pretty similar to how the Eagles' schedule was. But how can we discredit a team that's ran through the teams that they played, other than when their quarterback was injured? because the
Agreed.
fact that they haven't
Agreed.
played anybody. I feel like that's an unfair assessment. Now, with that being said, your point still is true. Who have they played other than Dallas twice and an injured 49ers team? Nobody. But it's not a point you can bring up because it just means we don't know what they're going to do against a powerhouse team.
I'm just saying, and I'm not saying they're like TCU where they're going to get blown out 65-7 in the national championship. But I look at a team like Philly, and yes, I agree. You got to give credit where it's earned, and it's definitely due. They can't control their schedule, and they've won the games that they've needed to. But what concerns me is that they haven't played at Kansas City, they haven't played at Cincinnati, they haven't played at Buffalo. San Francisco, to me, like in my eyes, is okay. That was going to be their first like legitimate test of the season to really see like, is Philadelphia a real Super Bowl champion type team? And obviously, Purdy gets hurt in like the beginning of the game, so we really didn't get to see what Philly can do. But I'm interested because I'm not saying they're frauds, but I don't know. My gut tells me Kansas City. I just think that I'm taking the experience and I'm taking the team that had to go through Jacksonville, Jacksonville and Cincinnati. That was it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a responding question that you're going to sit here and you're going to question everything you just said with. So, Kansas City beat the Bengals on questionable calls, but what they didn't do was beat them in the regular season, and nor did they beat the Bills. So, what point are you getting to? Like, you make it sound as if Kansas City beat the two teams that you referenced.
Yeah.
But the two teams you use as great examples were the two teams that beat them in the regular season. So
okay,
I feel like
and
that's a
my
confusing...
response to that. No, I get that. So my response to that question is both of those games against Cincinnati. I don't remember the score against Cincinnati, but I recall it was like a very close game.
It's a field goal.
I think it was a field goal. And then the game against Buffalo was also a very tight game. It was like a 4-point game. And they're missing both their starting corners that game. So I am not a big fan of looking at games of, when teams played in week 5 or week 12. I like looking at, okay, when it matters and it's for all the marbles, how does that team show up? Because that is when things start clicking. You find your identity, coaching, the game plans become, I guess, maybe a little bit more, trying to think of the word, they become more, I guess, strategized for that specific matchup, where I think a lot of times in the regular season, you're not going to let out everything, like all your top plays, and I'm not saying that's what they did, but if you're going to play Cincinnati in week 12, you're not going to run like the one trick play you have or a deep shot play that you have to MVS if you're going to see them again. You're going to save it for the games that matter. So that's my response.
My question to that is, what point are you getting to then? Like you said, like they've gotten prepared from playing these powerhouse teams, but then you say you didn't have their capable players, and then you also are saying that they're not
Kansas City, did they not just beat Cincinnati?
They did. And we could sit here and say that Cincinnati, it's like an unfair assessment to say that, because it's like you sit here and obviously results are results, right?
Yeah.
But it's
the Eagles haven't even beaten anyone. Like the Chiefs have beat the Chargers twice. And they're better. The Chargers are better than any team the Eagles have played.
So the Chargers are better than the Cowboys, but
yes.
But the Chargers also blew a 27-point lead in the playoffs, where, as
it
Jason was
matter.
saying, you pull out every bit.
Chargers.
But that's the Chargers. How are we gonna sit here?
Okay,
you can't say the Chargers are great and then say the Chargers can get away with blowing a 27-point lead because it's the Chargers.
No. So I think you just walked in. You saying, "Oh, they made the playoffs and blew a 27-point lead." Basically, in a way, you can look at it as like, okay, so they made the playoffs. They were good enough to win a play. Like, if they didn't, they're that close to winning a playoff game. Chargers are a good football team. You can't just like discredit that.
Or the Cowboys.
The Cowboys are not on the same level as the Chargers, in my opinion. I think the Cowboys are a little bit. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one.
Chargers better than the Cowboys for sure.
I think Green Bay is a better team than the Cowboys.
On
like
rounds?
this last year, huh?
what grounds are you pulling this stuff out of? Why are the Chargers better than the Cowboys? On what realm? What have they done this year that you would say have been on par with the Cowboys?
If they played right now in a playoff game,
Well,
I'm
they're
taking
also
the
not in the
Chargers.
NFC. Chargers are
Yeah,
in the
I'm
NFC.
taking the Chargers, and I think most people are taking the Chargers. They're a better team. They have 2 elite edge rushers. I mean, I don't know if you want to call Mac elite anymore, but you have a top 5 quarterback. You have a better. I mean, running back debatable because Pollard is right up there with Eckler, but better receiving options.
Eckler's better in ball.
Defense, I would say the back end is definitely better for the Chargers. I'm taking the Chargers. I trust Herbert over Dak any day of the week.
I did too until they didn't score at all in the second half, and that's where like all this respect.
Yeah,
for that roster.
Vegas called. We all know what
My
happened.
bad.
Yeah.
Vegas called. The Vegas called that
Rooted.
same line in that Dallas San Fran game when they put Zeke at center, or what happened?
Okay,
I think
Austin,
so.
Right now, if you had to put all the money, we'll say future savings, so, we'll say, I don't know, in 10 years from now, we'll say your net worth is $1 million. Would you put all
agree
that
with
money
that.
on the Cowboys? Would you put all that money on the Cowboys beating the Chargers?
Yeah. You want me to
You
tell you
would.
why? Because
you
both
feel
of them
confident.
suck in the playoffs.
And you
But
feel
I know damn
confident.
well the
Okay.
Chargers will do everything in
Okay.
their power to throw the
All right,
end of the
buddy.
game. The Cowboys might
crazy.
suck, but at least they could throw in what's his name? Who's their backup quarterback?
Cooper.
Yeah, they can
Rush.
throw Cooper Rush,
Cooper
in,
Rush?
and he'd probably lead him to a touchdown drive because we know fucking Derwin's gonna slip and fall, or he'll target a dude in the head.
Oh,
Khalil Mack's
okay.
gonna trip over his own foot.
All right,
Like
for sure.
Justin Herbert's gonna throw it to the other team. Like that's reliable for the
Okay,
Chargers.
on paper, what roster would you rather have?
On
Like,
paper,
if-
that's
on
an
paper.
unfair thing to say because on paper,
Answer the
the
question.
doesn't mean
Answer the
anything.
question.
the Chargers
Answer
should have
the
been
question.
the #1 team in the AFC West, but in reality, they didn't live up to that. So we can't sit here and say on
Okay.
paper, bro. What fantasy realm are we living on right now?
On paper, I'll take the Jets. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you want
We're
me to
living
say.
on
like,
paper land.
I would not take the Jets on paper over the Chargers or Cowboys.
but you're
They
just
need
looking at paper. That doesn't mean
They,
that
they,
it's
they
on
don't
the
have a
field.
quarterback.
Like,
They don't have a quarterback.
I'll take the
I'll have a
paper. I'll
quarterback.
take the paper.
All right, then you'll go 6 and
All right.
11.
We're getting off on a
Yeah.
tangent
You'll go
here.
6 and 11. Enjoy your
I,
season.
I just want to bring it back real quick, though. I think that the Eagles' defense has been proven a little bit better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs give up a little bit more points than the Eagles' defense does,
It's a
and
lot better.
we've discussed the teams that they played, but at the same time, the defenses still have to show up, and there's a lot of times the Eagles' defense gives up less than 15 points, and especially in the playoffs. Obviously, I think you can probably just kind of, in my mind, scoot that San Fran game out of the way. It's kind of a little bit of a wash, but still only gave up 7 against a very high offensive power team. I mean, Josh Johnson as a 4th string, I mean, would have hoped that he would have been able to distribute the ball a little bit better to an offensive team like that. But besides that, the Eagles defense throughout the year has been way more solid. And I think for me, the difference will come down to the end of the game. Eagles defense might make a bigger stop. The Chiefs give a lot more points. And I think the Eagles offense can keep up with that.
All right, let's end the segment right now, and then we'll hop right
Okay,
back in with
next
the
one.
coach. We'll have like a 5 to 10 minute interim